Hi everyone, I'm Camden and I'm a junior here at the University of West Georgia. And this is success tips for beginning teachers. So, the transition from college to a real teaching environment can be a hard one. It may feel overwhelming because you are now having to have more responsibility and you are essentially on your own now. I will admit that this is something that I am extremely worried for this next step in life. However, I recently had the opportunity to observe at many different elementary schools, and based off these experiences, I have created some tips to hopefully make this transition easier for all you new educators. So, for my field observations, the first observation, I observed a first, second, and fifth grade class for 5 hours in total. So I mainly focused on classroom management. So I wanted to see the strategies that teachers used, if these strategies reduced behavioral distractions. And I really wanted to see the difference between what a good managed classroom looks like and what a poor managed classroom looked like. For observation two, I observed a first, third, and a fourth grade class for 5 hours total. And my main focus for this observation was motivation. So I wanted to see what strategies were used that the students controlled versus what the teacher controlled. So, my tips. Number one is to not be afraid to use rewards. Get to know your students, create a positive classroom environment, and arrange your classroom to best support your teaching style. So, these were some of the main aspects of teaching that I observed to be successful. So, throughout this video, I will mention specific examples from observations as well as personal experiences. So, tip number one is to not be afraid to use rewards. So, operant conditioning was introduced by B.F. Skinner, which ultimately suggests that behavior can be modified by punishment and reinforcement. So, reinforcement is to make behaviors be repeated, while punishment is supposed to reduce the occurrence of certain behaviors. So, in an education environment, reinforcements and rewards are sources of motivation, and motivation is key to student success. So, motivation just refers to the willingness to carry out specific tasks and the ambition to achieve goals. So, some of the rewards that could be used in these educational situations could be candy, stickers, small toys, class coupons, and class/school parties. And I saw a lot of examples of some of these reward systems. So, I saw a tally system as a form of reinforcement. So, all her classes were competing against each other to accumulate the most tallies. She would write tallies on the board when she noticed students using kind words or staying in their seats, following directions, and trying their best. So, whichever class had the highest number of tallies was given an award the next school day. I also saw a online point system and a sticker jar as reinforcement. So, that specific teacher, her teaching style did not include many questions being asked, but whenever she did ask questions, the student that raised their hand and got the correct answer got to pick a sticker out of the jar. Now, her point system works as a way of praise. So when she sees fit, she'll give a student a point as well as a shout out to the class. Um, the students are aiming towards a certain number of points so that they can attend a party at the end of each quarter. And all of these systems worked great at motivating their students to participate in class and do their coursework and all that jazz. Now, be aware to not solely rely on rewards. If these rewards are overused, they will lose effect eventually. The students will more expect rewards from the teachers rather than try to earn these rewards. So just be aware. Now, tip number 2 is to get to know your students. I know that I've been in classes where the teacher did not take my interests or the class's learning style into consideration, which ultimately ended with not very good grades from the class and little success. So it's very important to remember that each student is different. Learning styles vary. Different interests and personalities and hobbies are there. Different cognitive abilities and various beliefs, values, and backgrounds. So this is important because knowing these interests and learning styles will give you the opportunity to adjust your lectures, group work, class discussion activities so that students have a more effective learning experience. So you could incorporate their interests or everyday experience to stimulate their motivation. And I specifically saw that you relating their experiences and encouraging them to make their own connections to their interest to work stimulated their interest very well. So teachers are very responsible for stimulating situational interest, which is interest that's stimulated by unfamiliar words, pictures, sounds, smells, which this can be very difficult with a diverse class. And I saw that most of the teachers I observed did a very good job at this. One teacher would incorporate popular celebrities and even the students themselves into her math problems. Her students would giggle just for a little bit, and then they would almost instantly focus on the math problems in front of them. She would also include her students' everyday experience and interests into her lessons. So she was teaching place value, and she used football fields and individual footballs to represent the tenths and the ones place. And also within this lesson, she gave the students a opportunity to create their own way of representing place value. So one student did monster trucks and cars. So the monster trucks was tenths and the cars was ones. Or one did individual flowers and then a bouquet. So it really just opened the door for personal interests to form. So in sum, positive student teaching or teacher relationships are key to good teaching. So tip number 3 is to create a positive classroom environment. Teachers are at the center of classroom climates and environments. The attitudes and personalities that you harbor impacts the environment of a classroom. So teachers are expected to be warm, caring, and present, but they should also have behavioral and academic expectations. So some tips could be to create routines or daily procedures. Students need consistency. Show your personality to humanize yourself. I know that I've been in classes where the teachers only serve as a figure of authority. I didn't feel personally connected to them at all. Another tip could be to set clear expectations and to have a positive attitude towards teaching and the topics you're teaching. So, in my observations, one teacher had a bubbly personality, and it was very obvious that her students felt comfortable with her. But it was also obvious that they respected her and the expectations she had in place. Her students would come in, do their bell work, and wait quietly for her to start teaching. I also observed that almost every student within her class participated at least once in discussion or the games they were playing. So this observation really illustrated how welcoming classroom environments can facilitate participation. The attitude U Harbor, which she was very open that she loved what she was teaching and she enjoyed it, was very efficient, but the procedures and routines that she had in place definitely helped her sessions go by smoothly. So, in sum, creating a positive classroom environment will also establish a sense of respect mutually between student and teacher. And finally, tip number 4 is to arrange your classroom to support your teaching style. So, I was shocked to find out how detrimental this is to teaching efficiently. So there's other strategies of classroom management, which could be discipline strategies, class rules, and lesson design. But it's very difficult to plan out these strategies if the classroom arrangement is inadequate. So seating should facilitate learning and your teaching style. So collaborative work would work best in group seating. And individual work would work best maybe in rows or a horseshoe kind of shape. Um, Improper seating arrangement will lead to behavioral disruptions. And I saw this, I saw the positive side and the negative side of this in my observations. So, one teacher had her class in groups, which was to facilitate instruction because most of the work she gave was done collaboratively. So the students rarely got distracted and were engaged for the entire class period. Um, However, on the other side of things, one teacher had disruptions, but they were solely based on the way that her class was arranged. So her students were sitting in groups, however, they did not do any group work. So the seating arrangement led to many side conversations taking place that directly disrupted her teaching time. They were talking over her and not paying attention. And after multiple disruptions, she finally told her class to get headphones and complete their math work silently. Um, so while the other aspects of her class was adequate, it only took the seating arrangement to send the classroom into disorder. Um, so some of the benefits could be more concentration and engagement from the students, reduced behavioral problems. Students' individual needs are catered to. And what I mean by this is in one class, there was a lot of ESOL students, and the teacher had everyone sat in groups, but she had those students closer to her desk so she could tend to them easier and have more direct access to them than having them in the back of the room. And it also gives the teacher a sense of control over the learning environment. Now, in conclusion, all of these tips have a common goal, which is essentially to put children's learning, enjoyment, and comfortability first. We want to make our classrooms be the most effective learning environment for all students. And hopefully, these tips will help you do just that. I will definitely be applying these tips to my practice. Will you? Thank you so much.